Guys, that is Scotty.
Hi, guys.
Now you got to do it to me.
And that's Jordan.
We are WeMovies, and today is a very special one.
Yes.
We are doing...
Is it the favorite?
It might be.
In the movies, the WeMovies, Caleb had a nap.
I can feel them reviewing in the air tonight. Oh,
Hold on.
Lord.
In the early 18th century, England is at war with the French. Nevertheless, duck racing and pineapple eating are thriving. A frail Queen Anne occupies the throne, and her close friend, Lady Sarah, governs the country in her stead, while tending to Anne's ill health and mercurial temper. When a new servant, Abigail, arrives, her charm endures her to Sarah. Sarah takes Abigail under her wing, and Abigail sees a chance to return to her aristocratic roots. This is The Favourite, the next film by Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
He's done other
The
fantastic
Lobster,
films.
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I think that's...
No, wait, that's... Is it that one? No.
Yeah, Killing of a Sacred Deer
That
is
is
his,
that
yep.
one, yes, yep.
And he's done a few other strictly Greek-speaking,
Yes.
Greek language films.
We decided that Yorgos is now the Greek god of cinema. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yep.
Yep.
He's been reincarnated, and he is now...
He's been backdated to join the
Backdated,
Olympiad.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm not thinking.
The Olympic reign is over, but he's been backdated to join them.
He is the god of film in Greece. Wow, this film, huh?
Yeah.
Give us some historical backstory on this movie, Scott.
Okay. So it's actually quite interesting. Not many people talk about Queen Anne, and because she was what was happening at that time was on the continent in Spain there was the Spanish War succession, and basically a whole bunch of countries backed one ruler while France backed another ruler. That's what's going on. Meanwhile, she's back home. What I find interesting about her is that most of what historians get about Queen Anne was written by another character in this movie, who they had a falling out in real life, which we know between her and Sarah.
Yeah.
And then Sarah wrote some stuff about her, and
Well, she's basically the historical figure that has dated all of the stories that we know about Queen Anne and the kingdom at that time. And it's all in her voice, what we know today. Well, most of it is.
if you write down history, your opinions matter more than those who don't, basically.
Yeah.
So Queen Anne has been portrayed by historians for a long time as this sickly, not so smart, not so wise character.
Very dim character, very stupid character.
Yeah, but it may be that because she and Sarah had a falling out, they basically... Sarah supported the Whigs and Queen Anne supported the Tories, which are conservatives.
And so these, in politics, these are obviously the classic
Opposition.
opposing parties that
British
everyone in any sort of political spectrum knows. And yeah, there's some interesting things that happen, not just politically, but also socially and personally. And it has a great cast. I'm going to go through the cast list right now. So the main cast is Olivia Colman as Queen Anne. We have Emma Stone as Abigail, who is the servant that endears herself to Queen Anne. We have Rachel Weisz, who is Lady Sarah.
She's one of those actresses who seems to choose good movies.
Yes. Oh, yeah, especially this one. I feel like she kind of went off the radar a bit, and then Yorgos Lanthimos cast her in The Lobster, and she's been on the rise ever since. And I'm so grateful because, like, I grew up with The Mummy as one of my favorite action adventure films.
It's not. I don't know if it's aged that well, but
I watched it the other day, and even though I think the fact that it doesn't age well actually makes it even better.
It has a charm.
Exactly.
Also, Brendan Fraser has a charm.
Brendan Fraser. Can we just hashtag bring back Brendan Fraser, please?
Yes.
I feel like...
I miss him.
Yeah, he's just so charismatic.
We watched an episode of Scrubs the other day. I know we're going completely off topic, but it was just good to see him.
It was nice. He's such a great actor. He's got such charisma, and I would love to see him back in action. But as for the rest of the cast for this film, Nicholas Hoult plays Robert Harley, 1st Earl of Oxford. And he is so good in this movie. He exudes charisma.
It's one of those weird things where an actor fully commits to a character in the most theatrical, ridiculous manner, and it still somehow works realistically.
I think that's also because of, like, I mean, he's dressed up in makeup and wigs and all this other stuff because at the time period, it makes it work.
And also the dialogue.
Some of the dialogue
that make just...
It's so juicy dialogue. Like, it's
we're just doing deep dive.
No, I'm not finished. I'm going to finish the cast and then we'll go into deep dive. We got Joe Alwyn, who plays Samuel Masham, who is Abigail's love interest at the very beginning of the film, but that changes over time. And James Smith as Sidney Godolphin, which is the first Earl of Godolphin.
And what's his face as well?
And Mark Gatiss is John Churchill, first Duke of Marlborough.
Like, because he's a writer more than an actor, I think his acting doesn't get enough credits because everything he's ever been in, he has weight in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's great. And that's the main cast list for this film.
Yes.
So with that in mind, Scotty, take us away.
Oh no, I think we should do an overall impression.
All right, fine.
It's great. It's this or Roma, in my opinion, for Best Picture.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I was tossing up after seeing this. I was like, I wasn't sure when I first walked in. I was like, because I'm not a period piece fan. Like, I don't.
I am. I'll be honest. I drink it up. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. That's also a period piece.
That is a period piece. But it's a more recent period piece.
This isn't a period piece in my head. This is a contemporary movie.
And that's exactly what I found after I watched it. When I first walked in, because again, I'm not a big period piece kind of person. My anxiety plays up when I watch these kinds of films because, you know, just the setting and the things that the characters have to go through.
It can be the construct of the period piece overplays the actual story that's going on. Yeah, the characters. Yeah. I can get that. I think Emma and Shakespeare, and I think these sort of movies that we had in the mid-noughts and stuff, where period pieces were maybe at their heyday, they did have this thing where it overshadowed the actual stories that are being told. Yeah.
But like you said, I don't feel like this is the case for this movie. It talks about some very, very relevant subject matter. And yeah, I was thoroughly impressed by this film and also thoroughly disgusted.
Okay. Deep dive!
There we go. All right, guys, we're jumping into deep dive of this film.
With your disgust,
where do we start? So we're going to start with that?
Because the dialogue in this movie is nasty in the best way possible.
And vindictive and rebellious and just,
I've never heard the C word said with such flair and exuberance.
Yeah, but also just all these words, like they drop F-bombs, they drop C-bombs, they drop, like, you know, all of these.
There's bile being vomited in the dialogue and in real life at the same time.
Yeah. And one of the most disturbing things is that vitriol and all this other horrible stuff is not just visually being displayed for us, it's also in the dialogue, in the performances, in their relationships individually.
Exactly.
And
we should point this out. This isn't what's the word you used earlier for Robert Rodriguez?
The worst of Robert Rodriguez?
No, the
exploitative.
It's not. It is exploitive, but it's not exploitive.
Yes.
Everything in this movie has a reason to the story itself for
and
being
it's not,
there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like Robert Rodriguez is visually exploitative, but this is thematically exploitative.
Yes.
And two very different ways of exploiting something, I think. And that's what makes this film really stand out as not just a period piece. Mm-hmm. This is something that takes, you know, a lot of current themes, like not just guilt, but depression, anxiety, and on top of that, revenge.
There are just cliche relationship issues. I shouldn't use the word cliche. Always relevant relationship issues that are displayed in this movie.
Yeah.
And also, it has this thing of talking about personal relationships against work relationships as well.
Yeah.
Which is another thing.
And power struggles. And
power struggles.
That's the main thing for me of this film is definitely the power struggle that these three characters undergo.
Yes. And it's also weirdly about truth in relationships versus compassion in relationships as well, which is
And the blurred lines between
Oh,
those
yeah.
two. There are a lot of blurred lines in this. This film and its subject matter feel very realistic to me.
and we earlier we were talking about Green Book and how two stellar performances were more than the movie really.
Yeah.
This is built up of a cast that all across the board have fantastic performances, especially including the main three: Olivia Colman as Queen Anne, Emma Stone as Abigail, and Catherine Wise as
Rachel Weisz.
What did I say?
Catherine Weisz.
Oh, Catherine Wise. Lady Sarah. Did she play Catherine in something? Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe you're thinking of Lady Catherine and you just melded the two.
Maybe.
In your head.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of these performances, and I got to say, I got a newfound respect for Rachel Weisz's skill as an actor. Because beforehand, like I was a fan of her in The Mummy, and like she is a skilled actress, but I didn't fully understand the length or the depth of her skill until seeing this movie.
In The Lobster, she also does a fantastic performance. So she obviously has a old working relationship with Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yep.
But there was the Hypatia movie. There's a few indie movies she's done where she's really shown herself off. I mean, her acting skill. But in this, she is blunt to the umpteenth degree in a way that I don't think anyone else can do with such dignity.
But she also changes because there is sympathy there. There is actual caring there. So as a basic in-depth summary, let's say, Lady Sarah and Abigail are both vying for the power that Queen Anne could give them if they service her to the degree in which she wants them to. And that quickly becomes quite degrading.
Yes.
And they basically, like, both of these characters basically sell their bodies to Queen Anne for the promise of power. And there is so many blurred lines between what is right, what is good,
Queen
what is
Anne
ethical.
could very quickly become an unsympathetic, stupid character. Olivia Colman, though, pulls it out of the park, making her one of the most real and human character and one of the best representations of depression in cinema in a long time.
Because Queen Anne at this stage, she had given birth, how many times did they say?
17 or something ridiculous.
17 times, and all of them had either been stillborn or had died within the first 2 years.
It's ridiculous.
Which is insane. And so this character is dealing with that. Not just that, but she's dealing with her failing health.
Yes.
And that's when Abigail comes into the picture, and she actually goes out of her way. And Abigail's background, she's a cousin of Lady Sarah, and her family used to be well off until her father burned himself in their house, destroying everything, destroying the legacy, destroying her family, everything. And so she's had to go out and look for work elsewhere. And so she comes up with the idea, I'll go work for Lady Sarah. I'll be a little bit better off. But that quickly turns to, oh, I see a weakness in this queen. I can exploit that and maybe get my power back.
What's great is we're already going into the character elements. What happened in the film at this point is we've had fantastic cinematography framing of her character.
Talk about that in relation to Lady Sarah as well, because you came up with a really good point.
So at the start, we are looking up at Abigail's character, and we are looking straight on at the way the camera frames these characters is one looking up at one character, we're looking straight on at another.
Well, actually, we're looking straight on at Abigail when she first, and because she falls out of that carriage, we're looking down on her. And for the first couple of moments for her character, the camera is positioned up a little bit higher than her, making her feel a little bit smaller.
Also, it's to do with the specific characters at the same time. So, for example, if we're focused on Queen Anne and we go to Abigail, we're looking up. But if we're looking at Rachel, it's clear on. Whereas if it's ever Sarah's character, Lady Sarah and Abigail, it'll be framing looking up at Sarah and looking down at Abigail. At the start, anyway.
I noticed the very first time that these camera angles switch is when Matcham comes into the scene. And suddenly we're looking up at Abigail and we're looking straight on at Matcham, which basically means cinematically this is the language of telling us that she is more important than him, that she has all the control in this scene. And then throughout the film, we see Abigail through cinematography pretty much alone, let alone everything else. But the cinematography tells us that she gains more and more power as we go through. And I think by the very end, almost the very end, almost all the camera angles when they're on her, on Abigail, are from down lower looking up because she's got the power. She is in control
And
of this whole
also,
thing.
she's also often in shadow
Yes.
later on in the movie because her character is degraded.
Yes.
She's
And the further we get away, I don't know if you noticed this as well, but every time she is, because she eventually gets married to Matcham,
Yep.
and she does this out of preserving her status.
Yes.
And
Because it makes her a lady again.
whenever she's with Matcham, she is monologuing to herself in a very Shakespearean way. And we realize, I think halfway through the first time she does this, Matcham asks her a question that is completely unrelated to what she's saying.
Yep.
And that tells us, and she replies, how many times have I told you, don't interrupt me when I'm thinking?
Yeah.
And that tells us that all of this is in her head. And it's great. Like it's a great use of classic storytelling techniques from Shakespeare to tell something modern and different.
Also, I just want to point out there are sex scenes in this movie, and none of them feel out of place, forced, or Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
They all serve a purpose.
Feral.
Oh, they are horrible.
Oh, feral.
They are disgusting in the most delightful way possible.
And I'm not saying Olivia Colman isn't like a beautiful woman. It's just
the way she's portrayed in this.
The way she's portrayed in this is she's sickly. She's also mentally disturbed.
She's mentally unstable, and there's several great scenes depicting that. There's one where there's a dance. That dance scene is hilarious.
It's great, and it works.
Brilliant, yeah.
But there's also another scene earlier where she's wandering the castle and she starts screaming for her kids.
Oh yeah.
And that's harrowing because she loses her memory, and then when Abigail catches up with her with the wheelchair, she's screaming at everyone, "Where am I? Where am I? What happened? Why am I here?" And then she gets taken back to her room, and it's heartbreaking because for the whole film, these two people, Lady Sarah and Abigail, are abusing their relationship with this woman for their own personal gain.
It's so sick in the most terrible way, and yet you're loving it on screen because
it's realistic. It's truthful.
Yes.
It's not trying to lie to you as a part of the audience.
The weird thing is, even though the characters are taking advantage of Queen Anne, the movie itself isn't.
She's often portrayed in a very sympathetic light.
Yes.
Which I think is not really easy to do with what's going on screen.
No, the way that she's interacting with the other characters, it's very easy for her to become, as I said earlier, it's like she could be a very unsympathetic character.
Yeah. I mean, people could, and like, there were moments in there I was like, I hate her. I hate her, but I, at the same time, I'm still like, but I feel so sorry for her. She's so sad. She's so pathetic. And then there's moments, but these moments are built up of previous moments where you see her talking to Abigail about her children. You see, like, she's bought all of these rabbits, like
her
17 rabbits.
Rabbits is great.
She has all these 17 pet rabbits, and all of them are named after the children that have died. And that's just...
Well, it's funny because other scenes in the movie become better in hindsight, like her opening sequence where she's trying to get Lady Sarah to talk to the rabbits. Well, and she calls it macabre. It's like, oh, that's because she's seeing these as her children. Lady Sarah knows what she's doing to herself.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the keys to understanding Lady Sarah's relationship with Queen Anne is she's not entirely just trying to take advantage of her.
No.
There's actually true compassion. She actually does love Queen Anne.
As opposed to Abigail, who doesn't at all.
No.
She's only in it for her own gain, which is, it only becomes apparent in hindsight. Because I think for the first 3/4 of that film, I was rooting for Abigail to win. Yep. I was like, yeah, kick her out. Yep. Yeah, this is awesome. And then I think we get to the fourth act. I think there's five acts in this film. We get to the fourth act, and that's when everything becomes very, very clear that Abigail is a sociopath.
Yes.
She is insane. And it's frightening to watch the lengths that she goes through to get her power back. And she backstabs pretty much almost every single person. Matcham, the man that she marries, becomes degraded. And
once again,
he did such a good job. Like for a character that didn't have a lot of lines, that didn't have a lot of stuff to do.
Once again, it's due to the cinematography helps. Like the way those degrading shots are shot at the end. It's like, wow, that's just perfect.
Yeah.
Acting plus cinematography plus script.
Can we talk about Nicholas Hoult?
Yes.
Because his performance, I feel like he was a comedy relief character, if you're going to use those terms, but he's so much more than that.
He is.
He provides, like, every time he was on screen, I was laughing so much. Also, when we're going back to cinematography, it doesn't matter what happens on screen. He is always in power.
Yes.
He is always displayed from, like, the camera being lower than him, looking up at him every single time. Even at the very final scene where he's in, he has still got the higher status. He is the true winner in this film because he utilizes all of these relationships, all of these things, all of these grabs for power for his own use, and it works so well. His performance was just, it's perfect.
I think all the actors playing the politicians did a really good job of making this absurdist world very real.
Well, I mean, they're racing ducks in this little competition.
It's hilarious.
It's so well shot as well. Like, it's all in slow motion. You see all of these rich people just, like, cheering on the ducks and handing money over to each other once the duck race is over and all this other stuff. And it's like,
it's not even like it's shot as if this is a normal thing. It's very easy for you to make the decision, okay, we're going to shoot this in either a really negative light or a really over the top light.
Yeah.
And it was just there. And it was the characters around what was happening that actually made it absurd, which is great.
I also felt like, thinking now, we talk about the importance of the themes in this film. I just had a thought, like, Queen Anne essentially resembles, the audience of consumerism.
Yes.
Like, throughout the film, we see her just hogging her face with food. There's a point where she eats so much cake, she has to vomit.
And she's doing it to avoid her own issues.
Exactly.
And she's doing it to make herself feel good. It's a privilege thing as well.
It is. And then we've got these other two characters with Sarah and Abigail trying to appease her to get something from her, which is also very consumeristic.
Yes.
And also abusing her as well.
Especially Abigail, she sees her as an object and
meal ticket.
Yes, exactly.
Meal ticket.
But the scene where, I've got to say, the scene where Queen Anne is just eating the cake and then vomiting and then eating the cake.
It's
perfect.
It's as perfect as melancholia as you can get, because it's brutal.
It is.
And a lot of these scenes, and going back to, like, really good filmmaking, none of these scenes are wasted. There is no time being wasted on superfluous, stupid things that, the director wants us to know. He's like, no, this is it. This is how we're laying it out. You can follow it or you don't. I don't care, but this is the story I'm telling.
Also, I think we should point out how snappy and direct the dialogue plays into this.
Yeah.
It funnels the story along, keeping us entertained, even though this is political backplot going on that's really important. You don't care about it because it's the relationships that matter, but it's going on the whole time. But one of my favorite scenes, actually, in hindsight, is when Lady Sarah gets drugged and falls off a horse.
By Abigail. Abigail drugs her to get rid of her.
And then she wakes up in a brothel. And when her is it actually a husband or is it the head? I think it's the head of the other party. It's the head of the party.
It's the head of the other
Whigs.
party. Yeah.
It's the head of the Whig. Is it the Whigs?
Because her husband is off at the war.
Yes, exactly.
At the front.
When the head of the Whigs shows up, what's it, Tories? Whatever party she's associated, it's the Whigs. Shows up. He's like, did they rape you? No, they didn't actually. It's this conversation. It's this conversational tone about this really severe subject,
but it's a normal thing for them back then. Like it's and that's the thing, because she gets threatened with that kind of stuff. Like, if you try to leave, this is going to happen. If you want to stay here longer, you have to put out, all this other stuff. And she just takes it, whatever kind of thing. And then she tells them, look, go into this marketplace. You'll see this person walking around at this time with a duck. Go talk to him. He knows who I am. He'll come and pay you.
We should point out how absurd these lines are and how brilliantly they're done.
But that's the thing. That's the beautiful thing about this film is it has its own language.
Yes.
And it sticks to it. It doesn't try and it's not written from the point of view of, I guess this is kind of how they speak, so I'll just stick with it. No, he's obviously done his research. Yep. And not just that, he has embellished a little bit, I feel, on the language, but he's only done so to create these characters' evolutions.
It services the movie, and it services the story of the movie, which is, I think, important. Often, like, the reason you don't like period pieces, I'm guessing, is because of this stuff can get absurd.
Not really. The reason why I don't like period pieces is it's because a lot of the themes and a lot of the things they try and say, they do try to over embellish sometimes, I feel.
Okay.
And to the point of, like, I think the only thing I've really, really, truly enjoyed that has been period piece has been Pride and Prejudice, the BBC television miniseries, not the films.
Where Mr. Darcy was Mr. Darcy.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I liked that miniseries was because it wasn't over embellishing anything, and the themes that it was using were very relevant to today.
I don't know. I've never met anyone who doesn't really like that series because it's such a good, like, once again, true to its story. So it does, anything else doesn't matter if it's true to its story.
Yeah, and that's what I felt like with this. With The Favorite is a very similar. It stays true to its themes. It doesn't deviate. It's very focused, and it doesn't try and jam pack it with anything too crazy. I feel like if this film was trying to appeal to Hollywood, first of all, Kate Beckinsale would play Queen Anne. The sex scenes would be a lot longer and more pronounced in this film, but it's not trying to do that.
It's funny that you bring up Kate Beckinsale because actually the last period piece I really liked was Lady Susan, where Kate Beckinsale's in it, and she's actually really good in it. But she is very underrated. I think she gets too much credit. Been typecast into
exactly. She's been given way too much credit for her looks and not enough credit for her skill. And don't get me wrong, she's absolutely gorgeous.
I used to make the joke that there was two types of Kate Beckinsale acting: Kate Beckinsale with clothes and without clothes. But anyway, which is really harsh. But that's how.
But that's what Hollywood is typecast her in: underworld films, all that other stuff. And that's what I was kind of afraid with, like earlier when I was watching Rachel Weisz, because she is a beautiful woman. She is fantastically skilled. But there was a point where a lot of her work started to become very much like that whole, you know, it was borderline on that. And
I think
then she dropped off for a bit.
She must have realized about it.
Yeah, and she dropped off for a bit, and now she's back, and she pulls out an amazing performance. And along the lines of those performances, I feel like either of these three could have been nominated for Academy Awards.
Yes, and they all are.
Yeah,
but that's my problem with their nominations. Isn't that they don't deserve them, because they all definitely deserve them. It's the problem is they're all so good. It's the
they complement
Thelma
each
and
other.
Louise problem.
Yeah,
where they were both so good that they almost couldn't give the award to either of them, and they didn't.
Yeah, and that's that with this. But all of these performances, look, if you know anything about acting, the best actors are the ones that yield the floor to whoever is on stage with them. They give more than they take, and every single one of these actors in this film give.
Yes.
Every single time. And there's so much back and forth. Like one of the most amusing lines from Emma Stone's character, Abigail, when she first arrives at the thing and she tries to, what does she say? The guy assumes that she's something else, like a children's performer or something like that, or a maid, something like that.
Her intro is so absurd.
It's so absurd, but it's also perfect.
It's very realistic.
Because she's trying to fit in so hard. And she's going out of her way to try and be like, "Hey, I'm not a threat," kind of thing. But really, she's the biggest threat of all.
A lot of the opinions and actions of the characters aren't completely explained at the start, and it's so well done.
I'm glad that they don't.
It's so good.
And this is the thing with film. A lot of people, because they're used to a lot of big entertainment style films, they're used to getting all of the information straight away.
Yes.
Because that's the easiest way to get from point A to an action scene, is to make sure you have all the information before you jump in. But that kind of is counterintuitive to actually telling a story, in that you need to have some sort of mystery. You need to be able to allow the audience to still remain interested after a scene is finished. You can't just give all of your information to an audience straight away. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of watching the next hour and a half of a movie. But this film doesn't do that. It paces itself with the information it gives, and when it does give information to its audience, it's through a character revelation, or it's through a character action. It is never a character talking to another character, well, I'm from this place and I did this and I did that and I just did this to further my own goals.
The funny thing is they do that, but it's subverting it. When Abigail is talking about her past and stuff, she's using that for a purpose, to gain Lady Sarah's trust.
There is a great scene also when Nicholas Hoult is trying to use her for information, because he's realized that she is now like the inside woman and he needs to get on board with her. And he asks her questions. So what kind of like where is she? Where is the queen sitting on this side of the topic? And she says, that's all. I know X, Y, Z. That's all I know. And he's like, are you sure? Like, don't you know anything else? And then she starts like crying. But here's the kicker, and this is what makes Nicholas Holt's character so powerful. He knows she's lying,
Yes.
but he just leaves it alone because it's not important to him, and he's got enough, and he moves on. And there's like, it's such a, it's a small character choice, and you would miss it if you weren't paying attention, but it's there. And that kind of character choices for all of these actors is what makes all of their performances just that much better.
Yeah. I think what's interesting to me as well about this movie is how theatrical it is. Has this massive
it's Shakespeare. It spoke to me of Shakespeare.
Play.
Yeah.
It could easily be a play, but at the same time, it's playing on the language of cinema so much, which often a lot of people from theater screw up a lot, is they don't get that. This movie does it perfectly. And I mean, I think Lanthimos actually did have something to do with theater when he was younger, but he hasn't in a while.
I think he would have to. Like,
I think he did in Greece.
He knows too much about theater to not have something to do with theater.
Because in terms of the character progression and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of it is classic Broadway as well, but in the most realistic setting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, those asides that Abigail does to herself in her room when she thinks she's in private, or when she's with her husband. And there's like, there's a scene where she's like jerking him off while she's talking to herself and going through her plans and her fears and her worries. But she's just doing it like she's just talking to herself. And he is an afterthought. He is not even worth looking at this point because he is being used as a tool to get what she wants. And that, I think that just perfectly encapsulates her character. Like, she's willing to literally do anything to get what she wants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, very good British accent for Emma Stone.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure this isn't her first rodeo with a British accent. I'm pretty sure she's done it in another film. I can't remember what, but I know she's done it recently in another film. But she's a class act. I mean, from someone who got her start on Superbad. She was a high school student that was like, just, I guess I'll go for this kind of thing. She wasn't thinking much about it, and now she's like, what is she? 3 times nominated for an Academy Award now?
Is this her third? I mean, she won for La La Land, didn't she?
Yeah, she won for La La Land, and I'm pretty sure she got nominated earlier than that.
Yeah.
But she,
I don't know what it is now.
Skyrocketed. And
I mean, ever since Easy A, I was like, hang on a sec.
There's something different about this girl.
Yeah, she's got more than just your average. Yes.
Yep, she's a fantastic actress. Fantastic.
Can we just...
Birdman. I think she got nominated for Birdman,
And she was very different in that as well.
Yeah, she was.
I just love the ridiculous scenes of entertainment in this movie as well. Like there's a fat guy. He's got a wig on, and they're just chucking stuff at him.
Fruit, food, cake, everything.
And everyone's laughing and having a ball.
Even him. Like, he's just like, I'm such a tool, and he's laughing and having fun.
It's so camp and ridiculous. And
it's also excess. Like, it's the whole thing of, like, we have so much, we can just throw it. And there's a thing, because I think this is also very important to point out. Nicholas Holt's character's party, the political party, they are always saying that they're for the people, and if we go ahead with this war, it's going to take too much money out.
He is ridiculously expressive,
and he is the one that's throwing fruit and food and all this other stuff at this guy just for the hell of it, which is a great commentary on politics in this day and age.
There are a lot of good. That's the funny thing about this movie. Apparently, it took 10 years or something to actually make this movie.
Wow.
And I don't think it's ever been more relevant in terms of its political agenda.
Yeah.
Well, actually, on that note, we were talking about Green Book earlier and how a lot of the PC stuff feels ham-fisted into that movie. There are some moments in this movie where those things come up, but they are perfect. They are just there, and they're just done beautifully.
They exist as real things instead of stuff that a writer is trying to force you to see, which is very. I think it's a better way of doing stuff like this because it allows the audience to kind of gently come to those realizations through the characters instead of.
Oh, it's not preachy. It's just, and it shows like it's not showing a a lesbian sex scene as something between two romantic. That's not what this character is. It's not the point of the movie. It's showing it's disgusting because that's what it is in this movie.
It's true to those characters.
Yes.
Because and it could not be more obvious. And I haven't heard any criticism of this film for being PC or non-PC or whatever.
It doesn't,
because you can't.
No.
Because of how honest this film is. And I think that's the big thing that a lot of films aren't ballsy enough to be is honest. And that's so...
I think that's why it was so good that Moonlight, when it came out, won.
Yeah.
Because it was ridiculously honest.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie isn't just ridiculously honest, though. It's ridiculously nasty and great.
Yeah. You don't hear that often together, but it is nasty and it is really well done.
I know that you don't want to see this again anytime soon, but I want to watch it again. The thing is, it's...
Give me a year. I'll watch The Lobster.
Have you seen The Lobster yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Because I've seen The Lobster before, so I sort of knew what I was getting with this movie. He hasn't seen The Lobster yet.
I haven't.
But
I need to, though.
Yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos, he's a class act.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Is he nominated for Best Director?
I don't know.
Can you just quickly go and check?
I will.
Because I think this may be the best directed movie. Roma's so good.
It was also nominated for 10 Oscars at the most recent upcoming Academy Awards. 10 Oscars, including Best Picture. So yeah, I would assume it probably got nominated for
costume design,
Best
director,
cinematography,
three different actresses.
Yep. Insane.
Yeah.
So good.
It is really good.
And especially for Olivia Colman,
yes, I'm so happy that she's getting
I remember when she was in Peep Show. Do you remember that?
Peep Show is great.
Like, she was such she was great in that as well.
I can just remember those scenes where she's playing this nerdy chick and there's the other chicks talking about stuff and she's trying to be cool and she just says this ridiculously awful thing about sex. Peep Show is great.
She is a great comedic actress, but not just that. She's just a great actress. And I think I'm just happy she's getting recognition for her work and her outstanding career as well. Because I don't think I've ever seen her...
Did she win a BAFTA for Broadchurch? She might have done.
I think she did, yeah.
It would make sense. She's fantastic.
BAFTA, British, she's one of the most premier British talents. And I would not be surprised if after Judi Dench, it's after they're done with M and moved on to a new Bond, I would not be surprised if she came in.
I could see her doing a good M as well.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do another female M.
But, who knows?
I mean...
We could go full on...
We could talk about M. That's
machismo there.
Let's talk about that for a second.
What?
How awesome is it that they chose to do a female M way before any of the...
Way before it became PC to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
But then
they ruined it with every second Bond film.
Yes. I actually like Ralph Fiennes, but
Ralph Fiennes is awesome.
Yeah.
I love Ralph Fiennes. He's a great actor.
He is.
But we're not
talking about. You know what Ralph Fiennes?
Maybe we should do we will. We will eventually do one. What?
You know what Ralph Fiennes' last movie that came out was?
What?
Holmes and Watson.
Oh,
I know, poor guy. Well, there's a new Bond movie coming out eventually.
Eventually, they got Cary Fukunaga or Fukunawa. The guy who did True Detective and
okay, cool.
It Chapter 1, who wrote It Chapter 1.
That's good.
He's directing the next Bond film, so that'll be interesting. Not the first. Well, he might be the first American director to direct Bond.
Maybe.
Was there an American director that directed Bond?
There may have been.
If you're a Bond fan, please leave a comment below correcting what I just said.
Actually, hang on a sec. Is Broccoli actually American? Is Alfred Gurley actually American? Because then it would have been done almost...
I don't think he is.
Okay.
I don't think he is.
Interesting question.
Yeah.
But
anyway, the favorite.
The favorite. There's so much more to talk about. I love the chapters.
It starts every cycle, I guess, of this story with a chapter progression, like it's in a book, like it's a classic book, and each title is...
It's like poetry. It rhymes. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry.
Not that that's a bad thing. I think that's got a really bad reputation because of George Lucas. But no,
it's just a meme. That's
it starts every chapter with the line of dialogue in the preceding scene at which there is a turning point for a character.
Yeah.
or a revelation for a character, or something happens for a character, which I thought was a very clever way to do it. And it's very encompassing, and it also gives you, as the audience, time to digest what you've just seen, because there is a lot of harrowing stuff that happens in this movie, from, you know, Queen Anne dealing with gangrene and sores on her legs and all this other stuff that's gross.
Did you pick up on the did she didn't she with Lady Sarah, as did she actually intentionally give her gangrene so that she could manipulate her?
There was something along those lines.
There is that there in that movie, and I love that it's never gone into.
But at the very beginning of because there's a scene where they're talking about, like, don't ever leave me, and Sarah says, did I leave you when we first met? Did I leave you, kind of thing? And it's been shown that she has been manipulating her since they were kids, since they were children, which is, you know, that's.
But the fantastic thing about that is Lady Sarah almost taking it for granted that she can manipulate the Queen? Is this part of the relationship where she doesn't actually see the boundaries anymore?
Yeah. And it's very, like, and because she does take it for granted, she starts to palm her off to Abigail, because she doesn't realize what Abigail's doing at first, and then she catches on, but it's a little bit too late, and everything goes to shit. And it's amazing.
It is amazing. We should point out how the film also portrays excess in such a negative light.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's one thing that a lot of cinema often does wrong.
It reminded me a lot of The Wolf of Wall Street, actually,
Yes.
and how it dealt with excess.
Oddly enough, a very similar movie in a lot of respects.
Yes, there is, and it's such a shame, because I remember when that came out, a lot of Christian friends I know hated that movie, because that's not, like, it's not Christian, or it's not this, or it's not that. And it's like, guys, like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not what the film is. It's not like. Do you think people get addicted to porn because they don't like porn? Like, what's like?
Yeah.
Do you think people get addicted to drugs because they don't like drugs? Come on, like, you gotta be able to.
Very good point.
You gotta be able to see these films with at least an ounce of realism in the real world. Because if you do not understand that, or if you think films are purely for your entertainment and not as a way of expressing something that the director needs to get off their chest or wants to tell his audience.
I remember reading a period piece set in 200 years ago in Australia, and it was about this lady farmer who was dealing with her husband's away with the cattle because he has to take the cattle and come back.
The drover.
And she has this indigenous person working for her. And
wait, is this what the film Australia is based on?
No.
Oh, thank God.
I hope not. It's a short story.
Well, we just started really, like, similarly with a drover and
but her language to describing this character is very racist.
Yeah.
But the way she treats the character isn't. And this is one thing I think people don't understand, is actions often speak louder than words. Especially with film, with literature in general. Just
and life in general. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people are very confused when it comes to what film's purposes are supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for your entertainment. Like, you can go and choose a film to watch for your entertainment, but that's not solely what film exists for.
That's the most interesting, is you can often go and see an entertaining film, and afterwards you may pick up on the message being not something you actually wanted to see.
That's me with every Transformers
I was
film.
actually going to bring up Transformers.
The most
feminist movie, the first Transformers movie.
Yeah, they try so hard to make equality a thing, but yet, like, 50% of all of the shots that they do in the film are arse shots of, you know, chicks in bikini bottoms and G-strings. Like, that's not feminism. What are you trying to do? And it's, again, very exploitative. Mm-hmm. We've used that word a lot today.
Yeah, we have. But I think it should be pointed out, this film has exploitative tendencies, but it's using them for a specific purpose.
And a truthful purpose.
Exactly. It's to do with the story. It's to do with truth. It's to do with, it's not to show it in a positive light, but a negative.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note as well, this is also the reason why I don't like Christian movies, is because they are very untruthful.
Oh, yes.
They are full of just, this is the way we want the world to actually be. It's not really the world that is actually in existence, but we're going to ignore that in favor of giving you something that we want you to see, not what is true.
A lot of them have this element of just not knowing what reality is.
Yeah.
Being so out of touch.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary, really.
It is. especially for, because churches are not supposed to be out of touch.
Yeah.
They are, but they're not supposed to be.
There's it's based on one of these a Christian comic book writer, and it's about how D&D is evil. This movie.
Oh no!
It's so good.
I have
Such a good.
Oi! Shout out to Reese. You were the one who told me about this like last year. Said I should watch it. Yeah, I've heard about it.
You should see it. It's hilarious.
Oh man, I've heard it's so bad.
But the director is deliberately like there's a lesbian subplot in this movie because the director just put it in there as a joke.
Is it deliberately taking the piss, or is it like? So it is.
But the original writer didn't pick up on it at all. It's so fantastic. Anyway,
do you remember what it's called?
I don't know, but we'll Google it afterwards.
Oh, okay. Maybe that could be another film that we're gonna do.
We can just do a 10-minute podcast on that.
That's true. Yeah. Well, guys. Well, first of all, does this film live up to its expectations for you?
Does it live up to its title? Yes.
Does it live up to Yep.
My favorite movie of last year is probably still Spider-Verse.
Okay.
But, this is a big but. In terms of movie that I expect to win the Oscars, I don't know anymore. Because Roma and this movie are so good.
Yeah.
It's a tough race.
Yeah.
I don't know about the politics of what's going on and stuff, and whether there's actually if Roma's even in the competition politically, like in terms of Hollywood politics.
Yeah, right.
But to me, those two movies are so true to their own story.
Yeah.
And if a movie is true to its own story, it's a winner already.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it does it in cinematic brilliance and the dialogue in this movie is so juicy.
Good. It's so good. It's dripping with narrative. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's like it's been dipped in narrative and coated in narrative, then it's deep fried in narrative.
You've got an apple, you've deep fried this apple, you've coated it with toffee, you've covered it with chocolate, you've got the sprinkles on top, and you just dig it into this apple. You can't even taste the apple anymore.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful, and I agree. It's a hard pick between Roma and The Favorite. For me, I would like Roma to win personally, but I expect The Favorite to be picked as Best Picture.
See, I can't do it. I can't even say I prefer Roma.
No,
to
I'm
win.
not like I'm saying like as films in terms of like what makes me feel good and all this other stuff. I think I like Roma more on that level, but I would not be disappointed if either of these two. I think
you're right. I think in terms of but there's such catharsis in this movie.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. It's like there are elements in this movie where you see a storyline heading so wrong, and sometimes a train crash is exactly what you need to watch in your life.
Yeah, because it's a visual train crash of a movie, but it's not that they made any mistakes making it. It's a deliberately crafted, just slice of hyper real again,
slice of life.
Hyper real slice of life.
But the dialogue
that deals with real issues.
It turns it up. So normally you can have this hyper real slice of life like Roma, but the dialogue simply
elevates it to a theatrical.
It does. It puts it into its own camp. It makes it a movie.
Yeah.
So once again, I find like comparing Yorgos Lanthimos' movies to his other movies is actually like it's easy to do, but also I don't think it does any service to them because it's such a different movie from The Lobster and from Killing of a Sacred Deer. And I think this is actually my favorite of his movies.
Really?
Once again, using the word favorite, but whatever. It has a U in it.
The favorite is the favorite.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha.
But
puns. Continue, Scotty.
Maybe I'm a sucker for punishment, but this movie, I think, is my favorite of his movies.
Okay, that's fair. I haven't seen any of his other ones, so it is also the favorite of mine. But yeah, guys, it is still, as far as I know, it's still in cinemas.
Yeah.
It'll be in cinemas right up until the Academy Awards, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
It is a solid film, and if you like period dramas, similarly, if you like your stories in cinema to come with a huge helping of truth.
Also, I should point out, unlike The Green Book, where I would recommend just waiting for DVD for that movie.
Yeah.
But The Favorite, I would recommend seeing at the cinema.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd do the same. Because the Green Book, it feels like that. Because you said yourself, you kind of just left the Green Book and then you wanted to watch The Favorite over it, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's been WeMovies
I think we should try
for the
and
favorite.
take it out of the Oscars for a sec.
Okay.
How would you compare this to previous movies that you would hold up in that high regard? Because
Give me an example,
So-
because I think of Arrival because that's one of my
Yeah.
favorite films. Pretty
that
much
year
all
was a
time.
great year.
And it was a great year, but this is a different film. I can't compare both of them. I think for me personally, when a film, and it's similar to Annihilation,
Yes.
in that once a film reaches a certain level of greatness or quality or something like that, and it's telling the truth, in my mind, it becomes part of this group of films that neither of them are over one another. They're just different and they're their own thing, and so they exist in this kind of nebulous rating system.
Funnily enough, though, in terms of Annihilation, I think The Favorite is a better movie.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I can see, like, on a technical level especially, there are some things, and that can come down to budget or whatever you want to say.
They are very different movies, but I just think if
If we're selecting Best Picture nominees, I would put this above Annihilation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
but even in terms of like, if someone had 2 DVDs and I had to go watch one of them, I think I'd actually rather watch The Favorite than
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Because the more I think about Annihilation, the more I would rather see Annihilation over. But that could be just because I saw The Favorite more recently than
Yeah, that's true.
Annihilation. And that, again, like, that comes back to like what I'm feeling like at the time.
Exactly. No, there's a lot of that.
Because to be honest with you, I feel like watching Indiana Jones right now. Like, that's because I
That's
haven't
fair.
seen it in a while.
Indiana Jones OG.
Yep.
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 I mean, I could watch that anytime.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch it right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we're WeMovies. Signing off. I'm gonna go watch Indiana Jones with Jordan and comment blah blah blah. You know this. You know the
Yeah,
drill.
you know the drill. Also, shout out to Chris.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
I can feel them reviewing in the air tonight. Oh,
Hold on.
Lord. And you've been waiting for this moment for all your life.
Shout out to Chris.
Oh,
Hold
Lord. Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Bum bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. Psh.